Just as Miguel considered giving up for the night, a familiar figure appeared on the screen. It was Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. The cardinal moved with purpose, completely unaware of the camera capturing his every action. What happened next left Father Miguel frozen in his chair, his heart racing in disbelief. 2 weeks earlier, the town was alive with excitement. Word had spread quickly: Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle was coming to visit their parish. The news ignited a spark of anticipation in everyone, from the devout churchgoers to those who rarely set foot inside. His reputation for compassion and humility had reached far beyond the church walls, making him a figure admired by all. The days leading up to his arrival were a flurry of preparation. The pews were polished, the courtyard swept clean, and decorations carefully arranged to honor such a distinguished guest. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that everybody has a wonderful start of the new ecclesiastical year. Welcome back to St. Sophia's. Today we're here with the help of Cosmos Philly to show you what's the newest thing going on here at St. Sophia in terms of our church, Father Miguel announced. Families began arriving hours before the service, eager to secure a spot close enough to see the cardinal in person. The church filled quickly, and soon even the courtyard overflowed with people craning their necks for a glimpse of the man whose presence seemed to carry a sense of hope. Father Miguel stood by the main entrance, fidgeting with his collar. Despite the cool evening breeze, his palms were damp with nerves. He had met Cardinal Tagle before, but this occasion felt different, more significant. The burden of the recent burglaries weighed on the parish, and Miguel silently prayed that the cardinal's visit might bring some much-needed relief. The sound of gravel crunching under tires signaled the arrival of the sleek black car. Miguel took a deep breath and stepped forward as the vehicle came to a stop. The cardinal emerged, offering a signature warm smile and a slight bow to the gathered crowd. "Your Eminence," Miguel greeted, bowing deeply. The cardinal's presence seemed to ripple through the crowd like a wave of calm. Parishioners who had been tense and reserved due to the recent crimes now greeted each other with warmth and optimism. It was as if his arrival alone had lifted their spirits. Inside the church, the cardinal moved through the sea of people with ease and grace. He shook hands, offered blessings, and spoke to each person with genuine interest, making them feel seen and valued. Father Miguel watched from the edge of the crowd, filled with admiration. Despite his high rank, Cardinal Tagle carried himself with the humility of a servant. His charisma was as natural as the air he breathed. Yet as Miguel observed, something caught his eye. Clara, the church housekeeper, stood near the side aisle. Normally quiet and composed, she seemed unusually tense. Her hands fidgeted nervously, and she kept glancing toward the cardinal with an expression Miguel couldn't quite place. Was it fear, concern, or something else entirely? It was subtle, but it unsettled him enough to make a mental note to speak with her later. For now, though, the focus remained on the cardinal and the transformative energy his visit brought to the parish. Little did Miguel know, this was just the beginning of a series of events that would challenge everything he thought he knew. Clara lingered in the shadows near the sacristy, her hands clasped tightly together. Her gaze flitted nervously toward Cardinal Tagle, her posture rigid and tense as though she were bracing herself for a moment she dreaded. When the cardinal finally moved closer, she hesitated for a brief second before stepping forward. In a hushed tone, she whispered something to him, her words inaudible from where Father Miguel stood. The cardinal nodded slightly in response, his face a mask of calm, revealing nothing of the exchange. Without another word, Clara turned and exited the room abruptly, her pale face etched with emotion Miguel couldn't quite decipher, fear perhaps, or guilt. Whatever it was, it unsettled him. Miguel's stomach churned as he tried to make sense of what he had just witnessed. Clara had always been composed and discreet, never drawing attention to herself. Yet here she was, behaving in a way that seemed entirely out of character, especially in the presence of someone as respected and revered as Cardinal Tagle. Miguel attempted to brush off his unease, chalking it up to nerves over the day's important events, but the memory of Clara's fleeting words and the cardinal's cryptic response refused to leave him. A nagging suspicion gnawed at the edges of his mind, hinting that their interaction carried a significance he couldn't yet grasp. As the evening progressed, Miguel tried his best to focus on his duties, greeting parishioners and ensuring the cardinal's visit unfolded smoothly. Still, his thoughts kept circling back to Clara. What could she have said to the cardinal? Why had she appeared so rattled? Miguel pushed these questions aside, determined not to let his own overthinking spoil what should have been a joyous occasion. It was nearing midnight when the shrill buzz of Miguel's phone shattered the silence of his modest bedroom. Startled, he fumbled for the device on his nightstand, squinting at the screen through blurry eyes. The caller ID displayed the name of the security company responsible for monitoring the recently installed cameras at the church. A cold knot of anxiety formed in. After weeks of uneventful surveillance, a call at this hour could only mean one thing: trouble. "Father Miguel," came the operator's calm yet urgent voice, "we detected some unusual activity on the church premises. You may want to review the footage from camera 3 near the east corridor." Miguel hung up, his heart pounding. Pulling on a jacket over his nightclothes, he hurried toward the small office where the security monitors were housed. The church was eerily silent, its long corridors cloaked in shadows. Moonlight filtered through the stained glass windows, casting fractured colors onto the floor, but the beauty of the scene did little to ease Miguel's growing unease. Once seated in the glow of the monitors, Miguel navigated to the footage from earlier in the evening. At first, the screen displayed nothing out of the ordinary: empty hallways, locked doors, and a stillness that always settled over the church after hours. But as the time stamp crept past 11 p.m., a figure emerged from the shadows, its movements deliberate and cautious. Miguel's breath caught in his throat. The figure stepped further into the frame, and the dim light revealed the unmistakable form of Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Miguel leaned closer to the screen, his pulse quickening. The cardinal's movements were deliberate, almost furtive, as though he were wary of being seen. He paused every few steps to glance over his shoulder, scanning the darkness with a wariness that didn't match the composed, benevolent man Miguel had seen earlier that day. Miguel's chest tightened as he watched the footage unfold. What was the cardinal doing wandering the church at this hour? The more Miguel watched, the more troubling the scene became. The cardinal's actions were precise, almost as if he were searching for something, or someone. Miguel couldn't shake the feeling that there was far more to this late-night excursion than met the eye. And as the footage continued, what he saw next left him gripping the edge of the desk, his unease now fully transformed into alarm. As Cardinal Tagle approached Clara's quarters, he paused just outside her door. His hand hovered over the doorknob, hesitating for a brief moment. He glanced down the dimly lit hallway one last time, ensuring no one was watching. Satisfied that he was alone, he turned the knob and slipped inside, disappearing into the room. Father Miguel sat frozen, his eyes fixed on the monitor, his mind racing, struggling to reconcile the image of the respected and revered cardinal with a man moving so covertly. A wave of doubt and confusion washed over him. His first instinct was to give the cardinal the benefit of the doubt. Surely there had to be an innocent explanation for his actions. But the secrecy, the cautious glances over his shoulder, and the odd timing, all of it gnawed at Miguel's resolve. He replayed the footage, scrutinizing every detail. The cardinal's movements were deliberate, almost calculated. His behavior wasn't just cautious, it was methodical. Miguel leaned back in his chair, his unease growing with each passing second. The late hour and the cardinal's choice to visit Clara's room of all places didn't make sense. What could he be doing in Clara's room? Miguel muttered to himself.